Woohoo! Welcome everybody to the Art of Healing with your host, Dr. Judy Jasek of Animal Healing Arts, and myself, Matt Rowe of ParsleyPet. During our show, we are talking about your pet's health, raw feeding, and alternative treatments for cancer, unexplained illnesses, and supporting your pet's natural ability to heal. Welcome, Dr. Judy, to this week's show.
Thanks, Matt. Happy to be here as always.
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting. Now that we're stepping into holidays, we come off of Thanksgiving, and now we're stepping into a completely new Christmas that I don't think any of us have really been prepared for. Not being with our families, disruption. If family does come, there are certain rules now. Do we wear masks? How do we handle staying safe in our family? But what we're talking about today is keeping your pets safe during the holidays and some different emergencies. As Dr. Judy and I were talking about the pre-show discussing today's show, we were talking about how do you take a look at emergencies? Like, how do you know if your dog does something? What should you be looking for? How do you keep them safe through all of the disruptions that are going on now? We want you and your pet to be as safe as they can be. So, Dr. Judy, as we started to talk about the show today, we started to mention some things that can happen during dinner, the holidays, like anything that happens over Christmas, them eating ornaments, packages. So let's talk about food really quick. So what foods should we be particularly pay attention to with your pet during Christmas dinner or over this holiday season when there's so many sweets and cookies that are out?
Yeah, there's just, there's so many different things out, even though, we may not be traveling as much or gathering as much. I'll tell you, I went to the post office the other day. Holy smokes, the line was unreal. So I'm guessing there's going to be lots of packages en route with lots of different goodies and different things. And,
Right.
People are still getting together in smaller groups, but I think people are still gathering. So you might have people that don't understand that you're not supposed to feed your dog, things off the table or certain foods. So we'll talk about some certain foods. And then I also want to give everyone an idea, some danger signs to look for. When do you run off to the, ER with your dog? And when is it safe to, do a watch and see?
Mm-hmm.
So a big one that probably everybody knows about is chocolate. But the thing about chocolate is it's very dose dependent. It can be toxic, but dogs actually have to eat quite a bit of it. And it also depends on the type of chocolate. So if you're talking, baker's chocolate or very, very dark chocolate, when I eat chocolate, I'm like 90%. Like I eat the real ultra dark stuff. And what that means is that the chocolate in it, the actual chocolate is more concentrated. Milk chocolate, the chocolate is diluted out with milk and other ingredients, if it's, and also depending on the quality, some chocolates, they have wax, they have fillers. If it's a piece of chocolate candy that, that has nuts or fruit or something in it, and there's less chocolate, even a little dog would have to eat a lot of those types of things. The real big risk would be if your dog ate a lot of a solid chocolate, in particular, dark chocolate. Yeah. But we're talking like ounces. Like your dog would have to really eat quite a bit of dark chocolate in order to make them sick. And what I find in most cases, if dogs eat enough chocolate to be toxic, they're vomiting it back up because it just gave them an upset stomach. So a piece or two of chocolate candy, chocolate cake, brownies, stuff like that might give your dog a little bit of diarrhea from the extra sugar. It's not going to make them toxic. If your dog gets into baker's chocolate, I did actually see a lab once, this was many years ago, a Labrador retriever that ate a bar of the unsweetened baker's chocolate, which is
Mhm.
really bitter, but you
Yeah.
know, it was a Labrador. They eat
They eat
anything.
everything.
That dog, you know, got kind of, you know, agitated, you know, things like that, but ended up being fine. So things like baking chocolate or dark chocolate are
Yep.
probably going to be the biggest risk if your dog eats a significant amount of them, of those products. Now, if
Okay.
you see your dog eating a significant amount of chocolate, one way to get your dog to vomit is to give it some hydrogen peroxide.
Okay.
So hydrogen peroxide will make them throw up. So if you see them get into a bunch of chocolate,
Mhm.
it's what they're going to do at the ER anyway. Just give, I'd probably say about a tablespoon of peroxide per 50 pounds of body weight, and
Okay.
just repeat that about every 15 minutes until they
Mhm.
throw up. And if you catch them right away, that's worth doing. Now, if it was
Yeah.
hours, it's probably out of the stomach,
Mm.
you know, by then.
Right.
So those are, you know, those are some guidelines. Other things that can be toxic in large amounts are things like raisins. But again,
Okay.
if it's just a raisin or two, or a grape, so it's the grapes, you know, that are supposed to be toxic for dogs, they have to eat a lot of them. So just a couple raisins, you don't need to rush them into the ER.
Right.
They'll be fine. I've never actually seen, well, the only time I've seen a dog get sick from eating grapes was, again, a Labrador retriever. And they had a grapevine. The people had a grapevine in
Yeah.
their backyards. The dog ate
Okay.
grapes like all the time. Um,
Mhm.
I think one or two grapes or raisins is not going to cause a toxicity in your dog. So those are probably the two big things. Other things they might get into, cookies, cakes, things like that. It's not going to be toxic for them. It will give them some diarrhea, maybe an upset tummy, but you know, that you don't really have to run them into the ER
Mhm.
for that type of thing. Most human food in, you know, reasonable amounts is going to be fine. So say your dog, you know, gets on the table, eats some mashed potatoes or, you know, whatever. Again, might give them a little tummy ache. It's going to be fine. One thing to be careful about would be cooked bones. So
Mhm.
if you are, say, do a turkey for Christmas, raw
Mhm.
bones, you know, we've talked about raw feeding on this show.
Right.
Raw bones are fine. Cooked bones can be dangerous. So if your dog gets into the garbage and does eat some cooked bones, you're going to want to watch them for signs of gastric distress. Are they vomiting? Do they stop eating? Are they painful? So these are the things to look for as far as, do I need to run my dog into the ER? If there's damage to the stomach, like say a dog eats a cooked bone and
Mhm.
the bone is irritating the stomach or has damaged the stomach lining, you're going to see vomiting, but vomiting multiple times. Like they're just going to keep vomiting. They're not going to want to
Okay.
eat. They're going to be super painful. Like you touch the belly, like behind the rib cage, and
Mhm.
they're just going to hurt, and they're not going to want to get up and move around or go for walks or do anything like that. So if you
Okay.
notice those things, those would be some danger signs. If your dog gets into the garbage and is acting perfectly fine, you know, you can wait it out. And the truth of the matter is, most of the time, these things will pass. As a veterinarian, you know, I see the worst case scenario. So I do see the bad things that can happen, but I'm sure there's a lot of dogs that get into these cooked bones and it doesn't actually cause a problem for them.
Right. So based on what you said, I want to take a step back and let's talk about chocolate for just real quick, because this is something that, you know, in our household, we talk about with both of my kids. Like, make sure you close this, they don't get into chocolate, or if you see wrappers on the ground. So let's say Leo, being a 60-pound dog, he eats a half a bar of dark chocolate or like even baker's chocolate. and so he eats a half of a bar of the baker's chocolate, what kind of things would I see in Leo that would be concerning, that would be those causes of concern?
It's so chocolate contains a compound called theobromine.
Hmm.
It's actually related to cocaine. So it's an
Okay.
excitatory
Hmm.
compound. So they will get very agitated, think, dilated pupils and
Okay.
really agitated, can't settle down, maybe hyper salivating. So some
Okay.
definite behavioral changes.
Hmm.
You'll notice that again, things like the vomiting and diarrhea. But if he gets
Hmm.
enough to be truly toxic, you'll notice that agitation. And in small dogs, like your little
Hmm.
Mr. Cha-Cha, if he
Yeah.
decided to get into chocolate, it can actually go as far as things like seizures if they get enough
Okay.
of it. Usually, I think it we don't see these actual chocolate toxicity cases that much because they just don't eat that. I mean, they eat a certain amount and then it's like they start to not feel good. Like, okay, I don't
Mm.
feel so good. I'm going to stop eating this. And they
Mhm.
they stop eating it before they can actually eat enough to be toxic. I mean, I've seen one small dog with chocolate toxicity, and it
Mhm.
was a little poodle, and it had eaten like 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips that you put in chocolate chip cookies. So
That's a
that's a
lot.
lot. I mean, if you think a 10-pound dog eating 6 ounces, like one of those small bags, that's a
Yeah.
lot. I mean, I'd be sick if I ate that much,
I'm trying to figure
like
out how how they eat that much. There's something's not that big.
right, right. Evidently, it must have just really liked chocolate. So again, I mean, you want to watch for these types of behavior
Right.
changes, but they do have to eat quite a bit of it to
Mhm.
actually cause a toxicity.
Are you still there?
I am.
Okay, okay. You froze up for a minute and I thought everything was good. All right. So really on that level is that hitting that toxicity piece, and definitely bones is you're looking for, on those sides of making sure that they're not in distress, they're not um they will vomit if they get the bone, but they're going to be very painful in the stomach area to the touch. And so you can definitely tell as if something like that is going wrong. And at that moment, then you would want to go to the ER, go talk to your personal vet or however it is in there to come deal with that situation. So let's talk about Christmas presents. And you brought up a good one, ornaments.
Hmm. I've heard some really cute stories over the years of like the cat, people that have dogs and cats both in their household, and the cat will get up in the Christmas tree, knock the ornaments off, and then the dogs will eat them or chew them up because the cats, it's fun for them to bat at things,
Sure.
and knock them off. They don't really sit around and chew stuff up, but the dogs will. So,
Right.
so the danger signs are similar, like we were talking about with the bones. If a dog chews up an ornament. Now, if it's something like glass, something that would
Mm-hmm.
be sharp,
Mm-hmm.
that you might want to take them in and see, like, say, for certain that your dog ingested an ornament that was really sharp,
Yeah.
that might be a time to get them in and get them scoped, because at that point they can actually go in with an endoscope,
Mm-hmm.
and right into the stomach and remove those ornament pieces. If it's
Yeah.
something that um, is smoother edge that isn't going to cause that immediate trauma,
Mm-hmm.
then again, in most cases, these things will kind of move through the digestive tract. You're looking for the same things: persistent vomiting,
Mm-hmm.
abdominal pain, not wanting to eat,
Yeah.
those types of things. Those are your danger signs. Presence,
Yeah.
dogs can probably handle paper, cardboard if they
Mhm.
go, under the tree and start unwrapping presents, eating some paper. Probably not the healthiest thing for them, but
Right.
it isn't going to be toxic or cause a blockage
Okay.
of some sort.
Okay. And that makes sense. So as and as we talked a little bit more about, everything with the show, we started to talk about anxiety situations because you may have, let's say you do bring family in, but your dog is not used to these family members coming. Like, let's say your parents come in town and they see your dog once a year. And so this change of habits and this change of everything going on can really add some turmoil to your pet. And because their habits change, their structure change, their pack that they live with, us, has changed. So when we look at anxiety within dogs and stuff like that, how could we help protect our pet during this time and also keep our guests comfortable when they come to the house having a dog? For example, Leo, anybody that new that comes into the house, they need to be stood on and aka or even mounted to show that I am in charge or whatever he's doing out of boredom, and it makes the guests of our home very uncomfortable.
Right, right. So I think if your pet has particular behaviors, they usually demonstrate when people come into the house, let's let your guests know. So at least it's not a surprise. And then their reaction won't be as likely to alarm the dog. Say, hey, this is the way my dog tends to act when people first come into the home. This is what we do about it. And then, you move past it that way. I think another thing is trying to keep your pet's routine as close to what it's used to as possible. Pets really are creatures of habit, as people are. We were talking before the show about how much us humans tend to like control. And that's what makes these times really stressful, because you kind of feel like everything's uncertain and you don't have control over anything. But that routine, to a certain degree, is comforting, and it definitely is for the pets. So, getting up around the same time, feeding them their meals around the same time, feeding them the foods that they're used to. This isn't a time to be doing, diet changes if they're going to be a little bit stressed. Just wait till after the company leaves. And then if, they just, some dogs just don't like that extra activity in the house, there's things you can do like flower essences. So there's a very common flower essence blend called Rescue Remedy. And you can get this at natural grocery stores, Whole Foods, things like that. Go in and ask for flower essences. And the actual Bach flower brand has a blend called Rescue Remedy. And this is something you just put in the water. It's super easy. You don't even have to remember to give it. Just put it in their water dish. And then all the pets, you can put it in your water too, the human water, because it helps with, if you've got family coming and that's creating stress, because pets pick up on human stress and our emotions. And if we're having, I was sharing, before the show, we're having some challenges in caring for my elderly mother right now, that causes extra stress and some, challenging conversations in the family, and the pets pick up on all of that. So, keeping yourself calm around your pets. Essential oils are wonderful, like simple things like lavender. And you can just rub these on your hands, put them on yourself. You can put them on your pet, just put them on your hands and rub it on your pet's, face and ears. And they're safe in small amounts like that. They're safe to use in cats too. There are some things published out there that essential oils are not safe used externally. I think they're going to be fine. You can also diffuse, and they smell really good. And essential oils are much safer and healthier than things like most scented candles, which a lot of times scented candles have artificial ingredients that make them smell, which actually can cause respiratory irritation for pets that are prone to that. They breathe in those scents from the candles that are really chemicals, and can cause sneezing and coughing and things like that. But if you get an essential oil diffuser and you just put some water in it, put some drops of the essential oils in there, you can even, a lot of essential oil companies have Christmas blends that smell really good. You can put some of those in along with the lavender and chamomile and
Mhm.
the, the calming sense. Um, and exercise, always
Mhm.
great, stress reducing for everybody. So if your dog really loves getting outside and going for walks, or you take them to the dog park or whatever you normally do, make sure your dog is getting that exercise that they're used to, because
Right.
they really need that. That's really important for them to get off and blow off steam. And, it helps the people too,
Mhm.
and
We find this if we have guests over at our house, aka parents, my sisters, whoever it is, it's a nice break and a thing to do when they're here, saying, "Hey, we're gonna go walk the dog
yeah.
today." And he's actually sitting next to me right now. I've been petting him to keep him calm, and I said the WALK.
Uh-oh.
So he didn't even like flinch an eye. So one thing that we started is we started running him more. So, and we just take him to the park, and he just gets all his sprints and zoomies out, and we've
Mhm.
noticed his attitude has changed. So during that time, during Christmas, and you have family here, is take that time for a break for yourself to get away from family, because as chaos happens within the home, we kind of just need our space. And so, and also, like I said, it's a great activity to bring a family member with you to go walk the dog. They get to understand your dog a little bit more, and it's a great time for you to get that break. And so and then your dog starts to get into that sense of calm again. So then we started to touch into essential oils and stuff like that, which we are big proponents of in regards to like diffusers. Those are fantastic, and we highly recommend that. But when we look at, let's say, medication, so like Zen, I think Zen Dog is one of them that you can give when you can give some sort of calming style medication to your dog. And it wouldn't even be classified as medication, it would be a homeopathic style
Mhm.
of calming. What kind of things would you recommend if I have a dog that has high anxiety?
Yeah, so there's definitely herbal blends, and so things like chamomile, valerian, skullcap, even St. John's wort. I mean, there's
Mhm.
different things like that can help with anxiety. And what I find with those type of things is that a pet's response is going to vary. Like, not everything's going to work the same
Yeah.
on all animals. And so I would start with a relatively low dose. And they have
Mhm.
pet products out there. They also have human products. When it comes to herbal blends, and this also would apply to things like essential oils, you really want to look at sourcing. You want to make sure you're getting herbs that are grown organically. There's not a bunch of added chemicals or anything. And even in the essential oil blends, sometimes um, if find a blend that's a lot less expensive, it's probably cut with some um, cheaper oil or something. They're just stretching it. You're going to get what you pay for. So sometimes I find sometimes it's easier to find organic blends going with human sourcing, and then
Mhm.
you dose it appropriately. I
Okay.
usually say like a 50-pound dog could have a low end human dose. So most herbal supplements, they'll give you a range. They'll say 1 to 2 tablets or 20 to 40 drops or whatever. So a 50-pound dog could have a low end human dose. A dog that's 80 pounds or more could just probably have a full human dose. Your little dogs, like our little chihuahuas,
Yeah.
you're going to be giving them, maybe no more than 20 to 25% of a human dose to try that.
Mhm.
So you start low, and herbs are plants. They're very safe.
Mhm.
So you would just start low and see what you notice. CBD is another great
Mm.
one. CBD can
Yes.
really help with anxiety. So if you are using any CBD in your pets or on yourself,
Mhm.
give them a little dose of that, maybe throughout the day, maybe give it a little bit more often. And that can help, take some of the anxiety off. Another thing too that I just thought of is make sure that your pet can get the rest it needs. Sometimes when you have family, they're staying in spare bedrooms and there's people sleeping places where pets aren't used to having them. So make sure that your pet can get has a quiet place. Most pets at some point are going to want to go disappear someplace and sleep. Dogs and cats both sleep a lot. So you want to make sure that they have some uninterrupted space that they can go and feel safe and secure to just curl up and take a good nap.
Yeah. And, and that makes, a good point that you bring up and I want to take a step back a little bit in regards to the dosing on your herbals that you would give your dog. I don't recommend doing it at the day of, or like, for example, if you've never done it before, giving your dog dosages at that point, because I do know, like with Leo with CBD, yes, it has a calming effect, but if I don't give him enough, it has a paradoxical effect that it gets him revved up and overly excited in there. So if I don't dose that correctly, but without doing that prior to the event, like Christmas in there, I would never have known that. And I could have had a nightmare on my hands, giving him too low of a dose that excites him in that moment. So then I'm dealing with that. Another one is we were giving valerian root to Leo to calm him down a little bit during when we knew we were going to have a bunch of people over. Valerian root just knocked him out cold, and everybody thought our dog was dead. So, I mean, really on that kind of side, we were happy that he wasn't bothering anybody, but we started to get concerned a little bit too. So definitely practicing those dosages or experimenting with those dosages before Christmas happens. So definitely taking time to do that before you go into any one of those individual events. Knowing is better. Like I would
Yeah.
know how much I can give and have it.
Yeah, that's a really, really great point. I'm glad you brought that up because you will see a huge individual response. Some pets, valerian won't even touch them. Leo, it knocked him out, and you do need to find the right dose. So yeah, you definitely want to experiment with these, with these products a little bit ahead of time, so you know what's going to be most effective.
So really keeping your dog as balanced and right, and I want to say having their structure and their habits and everything that you're doing, keeping as much normalcy as you can within your house. Now, if they do eat something, definitely, with what Dr. Judy said, feel the belly, see if they're in intense pain, if they do eat, if they eat glass, or if they eat one of those ball, ornaments that are, made out of that, I don't know if that's glass or whatever it is, but it's sharp. And if they eat that and ingest it, take him to the ER and have his, stomach scoped to make sure he's not cutting it open and having other issues with that. So, and also setting boundaries with your guests as well. So this is something that helped us out a lot. We have a family member that loves to feed Leo off the table. Now, there were certain rules where, like, you can feed him this, and this off the table. Try to avoid this, and this. And so when we set up those rules, then everybody in the family knew, yeah, I can't feed you this bone, because we had a gentleman in our house, an uncle, that basically is like, oh, dogs should eat bones. And he was throwing bones down to the dog. We're like, no. He can eat raw bones that have been uncooked. And so by educating them and setting that boundary of this is good, this is bad, then all of a sudden it let that tension out, and it actually relieved our tension as well, because we knew that that family member wanted the best for us and wanted the best for our pet, and he respected what we had to say and our boundaries that we had set. So that helped out a lot as well in this period. So Dr. Judy, thank you very much for going through where to look for and what to be concerned about with the holidays coming up. Is there anything else that you would want to tell all the great pet parents that are watching?
Have a Merry Christmas and enjoy yourself as much as you can, and stay healthy and safe.
Yeah, absolutely. We wish you guys an unbelievable Christmas. Enjoy every moment of this season. And thank you very much for watching Animal Healing Arts and the Art of Healing with everything that we're doing. So you guys enjoy today and enjoy your Christmases.